Hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you are. I think it's about morning in Uganda. It's 5:56 here in where I am. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Lady Winnie Allison. Today is the 12th of March, 2026. I am coming live to you from the US. Definite supporter of National Unity Platform. Coming to share a few updates with you. Cosmas, you're welcome. You're welcome. Coming to chat a little bit with you and, continue with the struggle. Okay. We are definitely a different kind of revolution, different than Museveni has known. As seen from his search for His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. His search intensifies as the supposed swearing in date draws close. I understand he's slating his swearing in ceremony for March 31st. So we'll wait and see how that goes. But 2 days ago, Museveni thought that he had intelligence to capture Bobi Wine because he was told that he's in the country because he has 3 parts of where he might be. Might be in Uganda or maybe in South Africa. Some people say that he's in the US and abroad and all that. But from the video that came out where he's by the stream of water eating fene, they feel like surely Bobi Wine or His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is somewhere in Uganda, specifically in Kampala, because the fruit that he was eating was fresh, and the stream of water looks like a similar place where they can think about, they imagine is part of Uganda. So Museveni has a great feeling that Bobi Wine is in Uganda. Even if they come out and say, all the Museveni apologists come out and say that, oh, we're not looking for Bobi Wine. We don't care about Bobi Wine. We really, we're just doing our own operations. Why are they still at his home? Why is Bobi Wine's home still a barracks? If they were protecting him like the IGP claims they're protecting his home, why did they not do that before the elections? Why was Mrs. Barbara Kyagulanyi assaulted in her own home? Why don't they let anybody in and out of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's home? A few of these questions were asked by Namuga at the Commission and Accountability, is it that commission where she went and sat and talked with the police and the IGPs, the military and all of them. The only body that is allowed to arrest a person or allowed to search for a person is the police. But why is the military involved? Why are they doing this? Obviously because it's illegal and because Museveni thinks he can do whatever he wants. So they are intensively searching for Bobi Wine. Seen today, his personal secretary, Sheriff, his home was raided. Fortunately, there were some cameras in the home. The military, well, not military because they were not in uniform, led by a border man, led them to the home of Mr. Sharif, where they didn't find him. And upon asking his wife several times, where's Sharif, where's Sharif, she kept on saying, I don't know where he is, because everyone is on high alert that they're going to get picked up because Museveni is looking for Bobi Wine. By all means, he thinks he has to catch him before he swears in. So anyways, then they decided to take his wife. So as we speak right now, Sharif's wife, the assistant of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, was picked up from her home and taken away in a drone this morning. There was security footage from a CCTV camera in their home. His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu posted it on his page, so you can reference that to see how the video and what happened. But she has been taken. She's not a politician. Neither is her husband. Her husband is a secretary or is an assistant to His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. That does not make for her to become a terrorist, but she was taken anyway. Other questions that come to mind when Museveni and apologists say that they're not looking for Bobi Wine, or they're protecting Bobi Wine's home. When you remember during the times of the campaigns, when Bobi Wine had to travel with his with the guards that were given to him by Museveni, those very guards, as we speak, were taken off his team towards the end of the campaign. Around the time that he went around Kalangala and all those areas, you remember it was now SFCs that were surrounding Bobi Wine. Some of them in masks. Good evening, Agnes. Some of them wearing masks. Some of them wearing non-uniforms, and a few of them in uniform, okay? So I don't understand what Museveni means by protection of His Excellency when he took away the police that were protecting him. Speaking of which, those police guards have since been abducted from their homes. The reason why we have to call these abductions is because there are no warrants, there are no summons. And when people are picked up, they're picked up in a manner of gathering by force. Okay, you're not called to come and go with the police. No, they come and pick you up, put you in a drone. You're not told what your crime is. You just disappear. So all the police guards, many of you will remember a very tall gentleman who was always around Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, around him, passing him this, giving him that, getting around him, you know, protecting him from many crowds coming closely and directly at him. There were about 6 or 7, maybe 8 of those. They were demoted from the police because apparently Museveni accuses them of being the ones who successfully had His Excellency escape from his home, especially that night when they came to raid his home. So the policemen or the guards who were sent or appointed by Museveni, because Museveni himself took away Akilewo Chivumbi, the rest of the guards, Jamshid, you know, Jamshid is now free, but the rest of the team, Eddie Mutwe, everybody who was in the security detail of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, by his own choice and being, by his own trust in his own people, Museveni took those guards away and put on SFCs. And now he claims, or the IGP claims, the reason they're in Bobi Wine's home is because they want to protect him or want to protect his home. That does not make sense at all. It does not make sense. So this goes on to show the dubious actions of Museveni and his government. This goes to paint him further as evil as he's always been. This goes to show what it means to be a true opposition in Uganda. Okay? Of all the people who ran alongside, who ran as the opposition to Museveni, because Museveni was the incumbent, only Bobi Wine, His Excellency, only him is not in his home. Only he cannot go back to his home. Only he, okay, is running because there is tweets and all kinds of messages and threats upon his life. Only his wife was assaulted. You wonder whether Museveni doesn't know where Mugisha Muntu lives, or doesn't know where Basalira lives, or doesn't know where Lukwago lives, or doesn't know where this man they call Kagege. Like, doesn't Museveni know where all those other people live? Are they not the opposition? You know, that goes to show you that every opposition is engineered by Museveni, except the noob opposition. And that's why Museveni is completely distraught. By now, if this was a Besigye scenario, okay, if Museveni was running alongside Besigye, by now, everything would be back to normal. And so Museveni is shocked to his wits because at this time, he does not know the whereabouts of his Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. He does not know if he will survive his own swearing-in ceremony. He does not know if Bobby Wine will show up anywhere at his home. He does not know, despite knowing that Bobby Wine has no potential to hurt him physically, you know, because he's not a militarized man. He's a, yes, Agnes, that's Nsereko. That's right. Thank you, John. Because, you know, he does not know what Bobby Wine brings to the table next. That perturbs Museveni. So all of these roadblocks that have been put in place are in search of Bobby Wine. Because they saw him with a helmet, because they saw him with a hat, every boda that is stopped has to take off their helmet to show them. They're claiming that they're trying to monitor security, make sure people are driving safely. If that is the case, why are you having somebody who wears a hat or a boda helmet take it off? Because it becomes unsafe. Why does everybody has to stop, get out of a taxi, and have them take a look? It is true that Museveni is looking for His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, and he cannot fool us anymore. And all of his cronies and apologists who are on TV and debating and saying all this nonsense that they're not looking for His Excellency are wasting their time. Because if you're not looking for this man, why is his home a barracks? Why are all the CCTV that he put for his own protection destroyed? Okay? Why does police and military have to live there? Why are you picking up all the members of his team? You know, what are you picking up a secretary for? The one, Mr. Sheriff was picked up today, his assistant. Why are you picking up his assistant? Why did you pick up the lady from West Nile, I believe, the head of the Shabet, something. She's from the East. Why did the one who was picked up in the night, in the evening, and driven all night and dumped in the morning? Why are the EC Electoral Commission group of the National Unity Platform picked up? Yesterday, I saw a video from one of the three Electoral Commission, National Unity Platform Electoral Commission group. Why were they taken away? Why are you dealing with these people with an iron fist if it is true that you do not want to catch His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu? Let me tell you what Museveni fears. I strongly believe that Museveni fears that if he doesn't have His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, he cannot even go ahead and swear in. Because if he must swear in, okay, he has to have a leader of opposition. He must have an opposition to co-run the parliament. He cannot have a parliament of his own position because the opposition has naturally the opposition picks the leader of opposition because a government has to be fact-checked, has to be checked somehow. It's called checks and balances. You need to have the ruling and the opposition so that in case something is in their blind sight, they're able to listen to a difference of opinion because some people may share that difference of opinion. So Museveni's fear is the fact that His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu being away, not being in his custody, not being able for him to manipulate him. He's afraid he will not have a leader of opposition appointed. That means all other oppositions cannot swear in, cannot go and say, I am an MP of so-and-so under this party, because the whole system is incomplete. But more so, he is afraid of what is going to hit him from the West, from the Western world. All these reports that are being compiled, the UN Security Council, the report that they came out with recently that spoke about what he has done in Sudan, which I'm going to go into detail about, all that gives Museveni a lot of fear because he knows Bobby Wine being away, a lot more information is coming in and filling up. And it is true. So Museveni, I'm telling you that despite him being away, we have more that we can do with him at our disposal because we can reach him. We can compile, we can document, we can share. We can consult with him. He can consult with everybody else. So it is true that your fears are valid. But what you must do if you were a wise man, is return the victory of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu and move on and leave Uganda in peace. You and your people just go on and keep going. Okay? So anyways, he's also afraid that when he goes to swear in, the likelihood of him being hit by missiles or a bomb or whatever the case might be is possible. Because Museveni functions that way, he thinks the whole world works that way, which makes it good for him because he needs that in order to realize that he's not a god or some kind of small god. Okay? So he's afraid of that as well. I want to go back to a few points about road construction and contracts that happen in East Africa. You notice that even if they say that contracts are sold to Chinese or Koreans or whomever they say that is building roads, those contracts, those roads are done so poorly that it's questionable that when you go to Chinese countries, you go to these other countries and you see what they do with infrastructure. It's amazing. Why is it that in Uganda, it is not the same case? Well, the story behind it is that Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, some part of Burundi, give their contracts to Museveni to build roads. So essentially, they exchange, let's say Ruto does his constructions in Uganda. All road contracts are given to President Ruto of Kenya. All Kenyan contracts, road construction, are given to Museveni. Same thing with Tanzania, same thing with Rwanda. That is the reason why Magufuli mysteriously just quickly died, and they said COVID and blah, blah, blah. They labeled it very quickly, and that was done. That was that. Because Magufuli refused to cooperate in these fraudulent activities. He felt it was befitting to get the real legitimate company that can do the job to do the job instead of having to pass money around each other like this and that. So that is how come these countries, as Uganda's road performances and other areas, are really poor, because they pass those contracts amongst themselves. Okay. There was a meeting between CMI, ISO, and ESO, where they're planning to, because of the meeting that was held by Namuga, the CAP, which was the Commissions of Accountability, where she questioned the IGP, the police force, the executives of the military, executives of CMI. They sat together and were answering questions. Mostly the IGP answered those questions. Museveni is not Museveni. The group that were asked these questions were very embarrassed because Namuga asked valid questions and they answered very foolish, or they weren't prepared to answer what they should have responded. So Namuga fired away and asked questions like, what are you doing at His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's home? And they laughed, ha, 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 ha. We are giving him security. And they said, what do you mean security? The guy is not even there because he can't live there anymore. Ha, ha, ha. That is the reason why we're there. They had no good responses to come up with. So because they were humiliated in that meeting, they have sworn to take down Namuga any way possible. So what they're going to do is try to round up as many new leaders or executives or members of the new leadership. One by one, they'll be rallied, summoned, because they want to look like they're doing this legitimately. Some of them will be summoned all the way up to the president and asked questions that will help them, sort of misfire, or get them even in trouble. Questions that will cause them to answer with criminalizing answers. They're going to pick them up eventually and interrogate them over the word Kabanje. Because Kabanje is still going on and we're using it quite a bit as the members of the opposition, they feel like it's part of the reason why His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is not available or not here. Which makes sense. Joanne, good to see you. Which makes sense because it was part of the slogan. It was cast your vote, protect your vote, and if you don't get what you voted for, seek where it is, which Kabanje is. We're now asking for our win, which Museveni took. For somebody who stole the win and wants to call himself the president, why is he still trying to hunt down his excellency? So they're going to pick up all these guys and take them to CMI or ISO and question them over the word Kabanje, because they're so embarrassed and they feel like, you know, because they've lost a lot of legitimacy as a police force, as an army. They want to do this and look like it is the right way, or they're going through the right legal channels to have these people summoned. They will also summon His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, again, with the effort to try to get him out of where he is. But truly, no matter what Museveni will do, he will not be able to extract His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu unless he's ready to come out and be present everywhere. Because what Museveni doesn't understand is that the love and the support that Kyagulanyi Ssentamu has is from our hearts. It doesn't take a campaign to be on the right side of history or the right side of the people. We cry the same, we suffer the same, we celebrate the same as Ugandans. We have loved Kyagulanyi and the fact that he's there for Ugandans of all walks of life. It is the reason why he can survive and thrive comfortably under any circumstances, in the hands and at large in Uganda. So when they feel like they can take away his comforts, take his home, take all of that, and think that that's going to draw him back, they don't know that Kyagulanyi was one of us. Kyagulanyi was born and has lived and is bred Ugandan. He can live anywhere. He can thrive anywhere. People are now more protective of Kyagulanyi Ssentamu than they can even think about being there for Museveni. When you contrast and compare and contrast, when Museveni travels, he blocks both the return and ongoing traffic. People cannot reach 100 meters of him, except SFCs. Even SFCs he's afraid of. They have to be a distance from him. Meanwhile, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is it's like the heart of an onion. He's right amongst where he should be. The people offer, the people protect him. When we were going through campaigns, many other MPs were throwing money left and right at people and buying this and buying that. Even if they did not win this election. People genuinely went out and voted for His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. So whatever you do, Museveni, you cannot succeed and you can't pull him out of wherever he is, because he's somebody who speaks for our hearts. He's the king of hearts, like they call it, because he's our, you know, he's the mirror of Uganda. I don't know if he understands that. He's the mirror that reflects everything Ugandan, everything we want, all our dreams, all we ask, all the country we want to live as is all in him. And our hopes rely in him. So the next thing I have to talk, by the way, I did speak about Uganda Airlines, the route that goes from Kampala or Entebbe to London. If you Google it, Uganda Airlines, it will tell you that route is now suspended. It's possibly indefinitely suspended because that airplane was sold to a different airline company. Uganda no longer has an airplane to serve the route from Entebbe to London. You can Google it. You won't find it. It will show you that it's indefinitely suspended. There was a phone call that was tapped between Museveni and Salim Saleh. This is all good news because they've realized that they have no way out. Museveni asked Salim Saleh what they should do because he feels like Ugandans have become like jiggers in his feet. He says that Ugandans have profiled them, which is true. There is not a single person or relative, or there's nothing Museveni can pull off any time now that we don't have a way of finding out the actual truth. Because what we know for a fact is that Museveni is not there for Ugandans. He's there to amass himself and family with as much wealth as they can from Ugandans and leave Ugandans to hang dry. So we have profiled, including people like the new Chief Justice that he sworn in on his front yard in Chisozi. That Chief Justice is Rwandese and is a relative of Museveni, close blood relative. The reason why Museveni picks people like these and puts in these high places is because he wants them to execute mercilessly. Because if they chose a brother, a Ugandan, somebody who from a local tribe, you can feel something. You can have mercy when even if Museveni sends you to commit the worst atrocity. That is why he had to offer that CJ, Justice Owindolo, come off, because he knew that times would be tough. With Bobby Wine coming in and winning the election, and with him disappearing immediately and him not having captured him, Museveni felt like he needed an ally to be in that space, to be able to thwart whatever comes up there that they need, on his advice, obviously. So Salim Saleh then called and talked to him and said, they're all surrounded. You know, he told his brother, we are surrounded and we have no way out at this moment. If we can finish the buildings that we're building, then we should be able to escape before they capture us. But I feel like they're drawing close, and every day they're making an inch close to capturing us. Salim Saleh told Museveni that Kagame made a big mistake by trying to explain himself and defend himself. Remember when they were talking about the M23, when they were questioning Kagame about M23, in going back and forth where he said he didn't know what M23 was, he's not associated with it. A few weeks later, he came back to the news and he said, you know what, actually M23 is from Uganda. They were refugees that were in Uganda that regrouped and went on to attack parts of Congo. But M23 is an army of Museveni and Kagame. Museveni runs Rwanda, Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, and now Kenya with Ruto. So M23, I understand, was served by the food that was sent for UPDF with Uganda Airlines was also sent and dropped in Garamba bushes for the M23 to feed on. M23 has direct links from Museveni. In fact, the reason why one of them ended up dying in Zambia is because when they were shot in the ambush in Congo, they, in an attempt to rescue and try to get evidence gathered or taken away and have the rest of the M23s run away and disperse among people, they brought him to Uganda and Zambia hospital. And I understand that's where Museveni dealt with him finally. That was the end of it. So, yes, Lydia, you're right. Blood is thicker than water. I won't believe that a Ugandan. It's no wonder that Museveni's guards recently are from Angola or Rwanda. The SFCs are no longer Ugandans. And if you saw during the election period, all of the guards that came, or the people that were beating people mercilessly, especially the time that His Excellency was in Gulu, you can tell that they were walking around with sticks, just like those Rwandese people. That means they're from Rwanda. Some of the military in Kampala area that were beating people while the internet was off were people of different Central Africa, Angola. They didn't even speak the language. So they beat Ugandans mercilessly, like they would be dealing with an enemy somewhere. It may have been what they were told, that these are all enemies. Do whatever you can with them. So Salim Saleh has told Museveni that Kagame made that mistake and that they would have been able to return to Rwanda, but now they can't. They cannot return to Rwanda because Rwanda is a worse target. In fact, Kagame now sleeps in Salim Saleh's home in Uganda. He sleeps in, I forget what it's called, but I talked about it the other time. He comes to Uganda and spends his nights because he knows that just a single or a few drones would take him out. You have seen what's going on in the Middle East. That's a whole different can of worms. But the Musevenis know how things work, and they know that it takes just a little bit of effort, targeted effort, and they won't be here anymore. So Kagame is now sleeping in Uganda. Museveni also asked Salim Saleh if Egypt would buy, or Egypt has accepted to buy their cows because they have so many cattle. As you know, they stole all that cattle from Ugandans. I was listening to a video by Betty Ochwe. She was a very, 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 very strong activist against the Balalo in Acholi, the parts where they were Amoro area, the parts where they were taking, stealing cattle or coming to take land. The Balalo debate was quite something. All that time, Betty Ochwe was standing strong against these people and what they were trying to do. So she was documented saying that she was punished quite a bit, and that they came and stole their cows at home. Imagine this day and age today. They're still stealing cows from the community and taking them and owning them and calling them their own. So Museveni is concerned about that. And he asked if Egypt could buy their cows so that they don't have to worry about transporting so much of them. Actually, they are also transporting their cows now by different trucks that come to Chisozi, and they're filled with cattle. Sometimes they're flying them with Uganda Airlines into Tanzania. So be prepared. They're moving their luggage or their things out of Uganda because they know that things are cracking down on them. Okay? Museveni is afraid that when he goes to swear in at Kololo, he could be struck by missiles because he's afraid. He knows what's possible. He knows what could happen to him. So that's one of the fears that he has, that something could happen while he's still, while he's swearing in or in any public place or even at his home. He most of all fears what happened with the Security Council report in South Sudan. I understand he's preparing to get a group of activists or young people. Obviously, he has to pay these people, some youths, to go and demonstrate on the streets of Kampala, opposing the Security Council's report and denying that Museveni was not involved. But that, that's just, he can try, but we know the facts are very clear. And I actually have some things I want to share with you about those. Anyone that is close to them knows that they're very fearful. I understand people who work in State House are not allowed to carry pistols or guns. They used to have them everywhere, but not anymore because they're afraid that they could turn against them or turn on them, especially the Muhoozi, the group that protect Muhoozi, because everybody's angry. The whole family of the Musevenis is angry at Muhoozi because they believe that he's the one who caused them to be in this predicament because of the tweets certifying that indeed they were part of this activity. So they will likely go to Tanzania, which is where they've sort of made their bed, where they want to lie, because they can control Suluhu, and because they have built an area where they almost have like a city, a self-sustaining city where they can live. But once, obviously, there's a warrant for arrest, it doesn't matter where Museveni goes, because any country that has him has to turn him in. And Suluhu being a woman, hopefully, that softens her heart enough to be able to do what's right. And in any case, it will be a mandate from whichever agency to have them turn these people in. So we're hopeful for that. One of the things that is for sure going to happen is that Museveni and family and group will leave Uganda and will leave the presidency and will exit Uganda. The timing is any time, but they're prepared. They're taking their cows out of Uganda. They've taken most of their personal items that are valuable. Most of their gold is gone. Most of their whatever is valuable to them is gone. Museveni, I understand, is negotiating to try to get his people off any sanctions list, his family, immediate family, but that cannot happen because they're all documented in the atrocities that have been committed over this time. Okay, I want to talk about South Sudan. This one is very touching because it is something that for a long time, South Sudan has not even known what or who their perpetrators are. Salva Kiir is a president is like a body filler for South Sudan. The true president of South Sudan is Museveni. And I'll tell you why, because I understand there was that when there was a lot of fighting going on in South Sudan. Let me just go step by step here. When we talk about the report from the Security Council in the UN Security Council that came out a few days ago, they do mention that Museveni is truly and surely confirmed to be the main perpetrator and cause of the war in South Sudan. It is documented and is proven that the first group that attacked South Sudan were the First Commandos Group, or First Commandos Unit, which is an SFC group. Some of them were UPDF, and their witnesses, people who have run away from these groups, are speaking out. People who have survived are speaking out. People who did not like being sent to do this dirty work are speaking out. People who AWOL from the military are speaking out. You know, there is never a time when something happens where there's no eyewitnesses. I mention this a lot because you cannot imagine a time where there is no witness to a situation that happened. Somehow God leaves somebody to be able to speak about it or at least convey the information. It is the reason why we have books like the Bible today, because of witnesses from many, many, many years back. Because had we not had those witnesses, we would never know how Jesus lived and how the Old Testament came to life and all of that. Everything has witnesses. And so it's the same thing with this. So it is documented that the UPDF and SFC First Commandos were the perpetrators, the first perpetrators of the war in South Sudan. Right after South Sudan got independence, they started racking up, causing atrocities down there. So the leader of the first battalion that went, the 307 battalion, was named J.K. Score. They went in through areas called Amala, Koboko, a place in Koboko in Arua. That is where they entered South Sudan with an order to kill just about anything that has life in it. I'm talking animals, human beings, anything that has life. And they called it Kusabulira, something like that. And that means that they went targeting the Nuer people, ordered by Museveni to go and clear and kill everything in the Nuer region of South Sudan. They entered through a place called Kaya border. They went into Mudulu. They went into Wawuli. And also Lumbek, Wadu, and Payanda. I may not say it correctly, but Panyanga, something like that. All those areas were left with no life. I mean, let alone wild animals, dogs, human beings, cattle, everything. They destroyed every sign of life. They stole trees that they can use for electric poles. I understand Salim Saleh is in the business of electric pole trees. They cut down and shipped out a whole lot of those into 6th Street industrial area in Kampala. They were ordered to chain boreholes where the Sudanese depend on drink water or to get water for any reason. Those boreholes in that region were ordered by the Musevenis to be chained shut so that if a Nuer person survives a bullet on the road, if they survive a fire, if they survive famine, they will get shot at a borehole. Many, many, many Nuer people died trying to get to water source like a borehole because it's a desert climate, it's a desert area, they don't have surface water. Most of their water has to be drilled deep down in the ground, hence the boreholes. These people, Battalion 307, commanded by the First Command SFCs, by Museveni, Salim Saleh, and the son. Muhoozi tweets about this and says he's tired of killing Nuer people because they killed so many people. So many. How despicable are these people? How despicable are the Museveni people? These Rwandis are heartless. Whether it was a baby, whether it was a Muse, whether it was a middle-aged person, a youth, a cow, a dog, everything was to be slashed. And they did. Everybody. So the people who could not survive, who survived the bullets and tried to get water, somehow died because of that. They left nothing for the Nuer to live on. No food, They slashed everything they could. They cleared and scared all kinds of aid. In that time, they appointed Baba, the Raila Odinga from Kenya. Raila Odinga was strategically appointed by Museveni because Museveni did not want him to bother Ruto and Ruto's government. Remember, Ruto was instilled by Museveni and he works on Museveni ideologies. So just to give him something to do, to kick rocks here and there, they made him the president or the executive of IGAD. So being that Sudan is one of the regions where IGAD is covered, Raila Odinga is compelled to go to South Sudan to try to find out for himself because there's so many cries coming from there. As you know, Raila Odinga is from the Luo area. And there's a lot of history of possible Nuer and migration history that will send these people or link them with by blood and all of that to Raila, besides being appointed this position. So Raila goes and makes a trip to South Sudan to try to see what's going on there. And when he goes to the sites where the Nuer people live, he's told that he cannot see anything unless he's given permission by Museveni. Tweet this as much as possible. And so Raila says, well, I'm here to see if I can speak with Riek Machar and find out what's going on. And they completely disallow him from accessing Riek Machar. He's then given permission to go and meet with Salva Kiir. Obviously, Salva Kiir is a puppet of Museveni. So they meet and talk over a lot of issues, but he truly cannot get headway because he can't get access to those regions to see firsthand what's going on. He ended up coming back to Kenya without speaking to Riek Machar or seeing for firsthand what's going on. And when he got to Kenya, he went straight to Uganda to see Museveni. Museveni obviously banters here and there, not really intentional to help because he doesn't want Raila's involvement. It is shortly after there that Raila eventually goes back home, is possibly poisoned, suffers from one thing and another, and all of a sudden Raila is gone. Okay, that's how Museveni works. So Raila ends up not seeing the Nuer people or the circumstances firsthand and ends up going back to Uganda. And in an interview that he makes, he says, truly what's happening in the Nuer region needs to get international attention. And remarks like that don't sit well with Museveni. So because of that, he then becomes short-lived, and under unknown circumstances, Raila is gone just like that. Recently when the report comes out from the council, Museveni says things like, why do the Western world get into the sovereignty of other countries and all of that? Why does Museveni get into the sovereignty of other countries like South Sudan, Congo, Kenya, Burundi, and all these regions? As much as he wants to point fingers, those fingers point right back at him. Because Museveni's involvement has meant atrocity and suffering to any region where he has stepped foot or been involved. Even Somalia. He maintained the Somalia war so that he can get money, funding from the US, to be able to continue to hoodwink them, saying that he's keeping peace in the region. He was not. All they did was destroy, occupy, and take everything there is. Uganda no longer sells coffee under their brand. All the coffee that comes to the West that I could buy that says Rwandi's coffee is Ugandan coffee. So there's no good intention for Ugandans from Museveni. And the sooner we realize that, the better it is for all of us, especially the ones who still work for him. Because what Museveni is doing now is clearing evidence. I understand there's there's a gentleman of his who, they're under weird circumstances, is in Nairobi fighting for his life. Everybody who has done dirty Museveni will do away with. Museveni has personally tasked Nzeja to poison the former Chief Justice Owindolo. I am saying this because it is true. Museveni, to a phone call to Nzeja, said, Nzeja, what is taking you so long? And Nzeja says, you know what? I'm working on it. I will take care of him. So don't take for granted the fact that you are a big shot here and there. All that is temporary. Anita Among is a moving target all day, every day. Museveni feels like she's useless because she can't represent him outside the world. He can't leave Uganda to go and represent this. Mao has been doing Anita's job. It only makes sense that now Museveni wants Mao to fill in that position. But does that make Mao secure? No. Because I understand there are nights where Museveni will watch a video of Mao opposing him back then and calling him all sorts of names. So in the meantime, while he gets Mao on top of that ladder, there will be a time where he'll kick that ladder down. So everybody is in line. When one person is not safe, we are all not safe. All the military, all of the police, all of the private sector, everyone in business, whatever you do, if you are doing it in Uganda and you are Ugandan, you are in Museveni's target. And it's just a matter of time. The BMKs are gone. You know, who knew? BMK was killed by Balam, by putting some poison in his underwear. I understand he died without his gearbox. Because that is just how they function. They feel like they have your expiration date made, and so you can't survive when they're done with you. You're gone. So I want you all to have hope. I strongly believe that change is coming. When you see Museveni packing his cows and making frantic calls like this, and Kagame sleeping in Uganda, and the search for Bobby Wine getting more intensified, just know that we're close. Change is coming. I am most hopeful. When I get all these security alerts, I get happy. And I'm anxious to share with you because I want you to share in the joy that I have. That soon, Uganda will be free and we'll all be free. We'll all enjoy our beautiful, great country. So keep the hope alive. It's getting dark. I will see you tomorrow. I love you and leave you. Love you all. Love you, Miriam, Fazira, Namutevi, Cosmas, Dante, Lydia. Those are the ones I see on my screen right now. I love you all and take care. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.